So, hello everyone. I hope you can hear me. Excited to have you on the radio. This is our third radio session of Radio Rafelrand. If you're new to our channel, we're a radio set up by students from the Zuiderzeeweg. We live on one of the last frayed edges of Amsterdam East. We will be evicted starting in June 2024. Um, so there's lots of reasons to begin with to make a radio because it's awesome, but we also felt the urgency to make a radio to give a stage to all the people that live at the frayed edges and make awesome music or know lots of cool different kinds of things. And today, because we're not disconnected from all the other autonomous spaces in the city, we had a chance to talk to the autonomous student struggle. So welcome. We're screening from the Amsterdam Book Fair, which is really exciting. So yeah, we'll be chatting today with you. Hi, yeah, you can say something in the microphone whenever you want. Hi. Hi. But let me first give you at least the people who are watching and who are tuning in from the Zuiderzeeweg. Let me give you some updates. So this is specifically to people who are a student at the Zuiderzeeweg. I have cool legal updates and also awesome events coming up. Yeah, for the legal updates, I cannot say too much, to be honest. But the only thing that I can say is that things seem to be going well, and that I would advise you to keep the 7th of December free in your agenda. There's probably in that week or probably on that day, there is a third General Assembly coming up, and that will be the day that you will receive these important updates. And the week afterwards, there will be an important action. So, but yeah, all of that will be like unveiled on the 7th of December, and probably before that as well. We'll send like notifications on that. Events that are coming up is Ons Eilandleven again on the 10th of December at the Cruise Inn, which is really exciting. And then probably you've seen that on the 11th of December, we do an event at Pakhuis de Zwijger. This is exciting for a bunch of reasons. One of them is that we will be having a panel discussion with someone from the municipality, more specifically the person who's like supposed to develop our neighborhood after we will be evicted. At I don't know if this is confidential information, but I've heard that her vision for our patch of land is to make it a free space plus. So lots of reason to talk to her at the Pakhuis event. But also there will be a market afterwards. So if you have art that you want to display or that you want to sell, send an email to zzw@riseup.net, zzw@riseup.net, and get in contact with us. So yeah, okay. Those were the okay, I'm forgetting another another important event, and that's actually much more soon. It's still in November, and that will be this upcoming Thursday. We'll be doing a vocal at Joe's Garage. It's a benefit, so we'll all do this on a voluntary basis, and we get really excited about printing flyers and stickers and all that. But yeah, it would be great if we can have some donations for that. And so it starts at 7 with a vegan dinner, and then at 9 there will be the screening of Hotel Mokum, the new documentary by Mokum Kraakt. So excited to see you there, and maybe someone can pass the microphone to Panka, and then I'm gonna give the stage to you, Panka. Yeah, great.
Thank you, Keek. Yeah, so as you mentioned already, we are here with two members of the Autonomous Student Struggle. So I was wondering if first you would like to introduce yourselves, obviously a bit, and then also as an organization, as a group.
Great. Okay. I'm Fiona, she, her. And I'm a student at the UvA. And for me, last year, I joined organizing with S. Last year at UvA, we had some occupations against ties with the fossil fuel industry. And S was involved in that as part of like a larger coalition. And I was also like, I joined in those actions. And then that way I got to know S and started organizing with them.
Okay, cool. Hi, I'm Sam. I use they, she pronouns. And I was there from the start in AS. It was like, I think 2 years ago or something, with another friend. Closer to the mic. Okay. I hope everyone heard. So 2 years. With another friend, we realized that there were no like radical leftist student groups at university, and this other friend had just been to a demo where there were more cops than um, people that were demonstrating at uni, which was really sad. And then we just thought, okay, let's do something about it, and like we made this group, and yeah, a lot of this has been going on since then.
Yeah, because the group is actually not that. It's a quite new group, right? It's like 2 years. How old is
Yeah,
this?
I mean, for me, it sounds very long actually. If you think about it, 2 years is huge in our lives at our age. But yeah, it's kind of a pretty much new group.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So then we were also wondering that around what issues are students mobilizing? What do you find that when students first join the cause, what is like one thing or two things that they are really attracted to in, for instance, your list of demands? And how has this been kind of, or has this been changing or evolving or deepening in the last years?
Do you wanna have a go?
Well, I can maybe say like maybe you can do again like how it began at the beginning.
Oh yeah, I do this and then you do the okay.
Yeah.
So at us we were a bit like everything sucks at uni in the beginning. Like like you have to pay fees. The food on campus is super expensive. Like we have to like also like cultural stuff is still really expensive. Even like the Cineville, it's like fucking like all these things are crazy in terms of money. Um, and yeah, uni's really depoliticized. The walls are white, and like it's I don't know, it's a bit scary. So we started off with this whole like list of 10 points of like we basically want everything to be free, and we want a space where we can become political, and like you know that was like people that started us, but actually like actual students, I think, or like other groups of students were able to mobilize more about specific issues like what you just said earlier about fossil fuel industry and like climate change. That's like really a topic that I think is easy to mobilize around. And recently, obviously, Palestine and what's been going on in Gaza.
Yeah, I think I agree like that there's of course topics that students mobilize around, indeed like climate crisis, Palestine recently, but also how universities react to it by not really reacting to it and trying to.
Well, in their neutrality, they're very much reacting to it.
Yeah,
actually,
that's
yeah.
true. Like, but I try to do air quotes, but like
We're invisible.
not the right medium for that. But and also yeah, I think also what you said about the depoliticizing of the university, for me that was a really big part in how it felt actually quite alienating to be in a world where so much is happening and we need to do stuff and we need to become political, and then actually you're taught to not do anything, actually like to only keep discussing and like be polite.
Yeah, I can actually really relate to that experience as well. Like I study at Utrecht University, so it's a different university to begin with. So I'm not that aware of how it is in Amsterdam. other than I go there to the library. But
Mhm.
in Utrecht, as far as I can see, it's even worse than Amsterdam, and it's really like you're joining some kind of ivory tower that's like meant to just keep like echoing itself. Like the language is becoming more difficult, and the connection to actually like the practice of the theory is insane. Like there's no spaces for students to even come together. So yeah, I was also wondering like how do you internally organize yourself? Like how did so the people as start was started by people who just came together and were frustrated. Like how did the group grow over time? Are there different subsections of people who are focusing on different things? Like how did you self-organize? I think this is also an interesting question just for our own mobilization,
Mhm.
because it's yeah, it takes quite some time and figuring out how to divide tasks and what are how to also work together, I guess. Yeah.
Um, Again, the beginning. I should
Yeah.
maybe okay. I jump in that. So like, I have to say it's a bit of a affinity group start where like we knew each other from other anarchist groups, and we just realized there was like a anarchist feminist group. There was a anarchist group, but there were no like anarchist groups within university, if that makes sense. Even though like we don't have to focus on students or like just university, but as a university, like as people that are in the institution, maybe it's important that there are like voices that are anarchists there. So yeah, we very much have an anarchist baseline in terms of ideology and thinking and political organizing. We're trying to be as non-hierarchical as possible, but uh, like it still exists. Obviously, like there are friends, there are like people that are there for longer, less long, but yeah. Anyways, and we have weekly assemblies at the moment. Every Tuesday at 7, join in at the Villa Mina Squad, Kanaalstraat 128. And we have different working groups in us where yeah, different themes are spoken about, and one week is like general assembly and the other week is um, a bit of a general assembly but short, and then working groups, so we feel like we're actually doing something. Yeah.
Yeah. Sam also just picked up a zine about avoiding meetings and
Yeah.
doing something else instead.
So maybe we'll have a different way of coming together.
We're all frustrated
I'll
about
keep you
that, I
updated.
think. No, so this is true. Like we have, we in the general assemblies, we try to like come together on different topics, and I think what's difficult now is that we. I feel like we always want to encourage people to take up their own initiative in whatever they are interested in, but sometimes this also means that we're a bit spread too thin about too many different topics.
Mhm.
So that's difficult. We still are like trying to I think get our footing in how to still like also have the benefit of being a group instead of
Yeah.
doing all our own thing.
And another like technical kind of thing is that we try and take decisions on a consensus based decision making way. I don't know how to call it, but like basically if like we I mean that's ideally, I don't know if you really do it, but that like that's the guiding principle is that we if we do not agree on something, we try and find middle grounds and we discuss until everyone agrees with the proposal. Yeah, but like again, that's like the theory and practice sometimes like yeah, stuff comes in the way, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also something that we've been, well, not struggling with, but discussing a lot, like in writing manifestos and defining our core values or our demands. Because even the tiniest sort of misunderstanding or just defining something differently, which everyone has their own definition of things, can make or break something. I don't know if
Yeah.
Kiki want to add something.
Yeah, I think this also leads me to, I think, an interesting topic that I'm super curious on how you go about that. Because what I think in the mobilization for the island, one of the things is that on the one hand, there's this mobilization for like, or that is based on the principles that are already there in these trade edges as a rather unregulated space. Like there's some regulation, but I think most of the like how people live their day-to-day lives there, it's based on self-organization and experimentation. So but then on the other hand, we are also mobilizing because we want to um have something to say about the future of the patch of land where we live, and that is a conversation that we need to have with the municipality. So there is sort of two different ways of mobilizing. I don't think they contradict each other, like they go hand in hand. But still, there's a different conversation that is happening in both of these projects. Like on the one hand, finding solidarity with the squatter scene in Amsterdam, and on the other hand, like how do we have even a conversation with the municipality? So yeah, based on that, I was wondering like how do you organize yourself as an anarchist group, as an autonomous group within an institution? Like what are some of the walls that you found there, and what are some of the pitfalls or struggles in that?
Yeah, I think like for example with the UvA, we've hit some very big walls. So I think what happened last year, and this is really not only autonomous student struggle, but also the broader coalition with our actions against working with Shell, the ties with Shell. What we really found is that they have a way of I'm trying to do the air quotes again, but keeping the conversation going, and by that, like, actually, like, not really like damping the protest in sort of way.
Maybe you can give examples like this thing with Shell, and then I'll
Yeah, I
the
give you an
free
example.
food
Yeah,
also.
that's very
Go for
good.
it.
Yeah. So with Shell, for example, we occupied the building, and then there was like it's made national headlines even, and then the UvA started these dialogues and started having a more moratorium on like working with Shell.
Yeah,
And
perhaps for the watchers, like what were your demands when you occupied the building?
so the demands were, I think, on top of my head, I quite forgot them, but
I mean, the main slogans were decarbonize, democratize, decolonize.
Yeah.
But then there were like three specific demands. So, like one about cutting ties with Shell, and the other one about like having a autonomous space, like the space we had occupied, to have it for us for organizing
and I
politically.
think the third one, which is also very important, to be transparent about your ties
Yeah.
with companies.
That's very
and,
important. Yeah. And did they respond to any of these demands, or was they wanted to have a dialogue with you?
So they
Or-
started these UvA-wide dialogues at the different campuses, and they have this way of in their statements really doing saying as if they are doing something, but
Yeah.
if you like actually dig deeper into it, the something is very little. Like they are willing to let things pass a committee before working together, but then it appears that this committee was already there and not really working, for example. Or
Yeah.
Another example, not with the fossil fuel industry, is the anti-canteen project that happened last year. Was like a bunch of people making free vegan foods and distributing them on campus, and it was a banger. Like so many people came the whole week, and then the UFA introduced a 450 or 350 like vegan meal at all their campuses, or like some of their campuses, I don't really remember, but from like 12 to 1 or something like this. And that obviously worked very well because it's much cheaper than like usually, which is at least €6 if you want to have something proper
Yeah.
to eat. And then they stopped, and then it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but it's so frustrating because they are like picking up your thing basically, and they are just making it a bit cheaper, but still like a big amount of money. And then they stop, and then they also only make it for 1 hour, and there's like yeah, that's typical of them. It's like, it's, you know, like pink washing and this kind of stuff. It's a bit similar, I think.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you mentioned that, because we also talked so much recently about kind of quote unquote extraction of having an existing community already on an island, who have kind of built up their own ecosystem and way of living in so many different ways, and then to kind of use them in a way and extract what's working and then plant it in your project,
Yeah.
and make a community to
Yeah.
where these people cannot return.
Yeah.
Because it's a
More concrete is that, so there's 235 students living there since 20 years, and we do pay rent. Like, it has never been squatted. It's like it used to be an asylum seeker center, but since 10 years, it's temporary living, and people just started taking up the space. But behind us, there are artist communities that are there since 40 years, 50 years. And the destination plan of our neighborhoods is a creative space based on the values that are there now. And the reason that we can have this conversation with the municipality on the 11th of December at Pakhuis de Zwijger is because the project leader is quite excited to talk with us about the creativity in our neighborhoods, and to give that a space in a new development plan. But then there is no guarantee that we can live there again, and there is no conversation. Okay, but like, okay, what are the social housing prices, and for whom is this art going to be? So yeah, I think it's relatable walls, perhaps, in that sense.
Yeah, this makes me, I want to jump in here also because like we've talked about institutions and stuff like this, but this is really why as an anarchist group at S, like we don't like rely on institutions, and we are not expecting anything from institutions. Like, we participated to the occupation, for example, but we also had our own statement explicitly saying we're not like the institution in itself, the university in itself is an institution that we don't want to exist anyways. So it's not like, you know, like we want to participate because we're in solidarity with our other like comrades,
Yeah,
and leftist groups, that like it's still great that there's like a movement and like we need to like anyways fight and stuff. But also, like, for example, people from us didn't necessarily want to go and sit down with the CVB to talk about stuff. Like, we know that they're gonna fuck us over in the end, you know.
Yeah.
Their interest is not like yours, definitely not. And so in any way, they like, the only thing that's bringing something to talk with them is for them. It's like for them to look like they're hearing and listening, and
Yeah,
they're tuning in with you. So like it's really important, like for I think for us to say this as well. I mean, sorry, yeah, this is another thing we should say, that we're talking about as individuals from us.
yeah,
Sorry, yeah, I
yeah.
didn't. I was like,
No, yeah.
but no, actually,
Yeah,
like Sam
yeah.
from S says this about what it means for them to be at S. So yeah, just
Yeah.
clarifying
No,
a
no,
bit.
that-
Yeah, so
that
the
makes
institution,
sense.
it's a no go, and like not waiting anything from them.
Yeah.
So I think in general, like this thing of really not trusting what they say, like because they, yeah, say it also mostly for their own benefit, I think, or like they have their own agenda behind it, and be wary of cooptation. I think,
Yeah,
like
cooptation.
And
Yeah.
it's really a loss
especially
of
with these
energy.
artist movements. I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so would you then say perhaps more concretely that the that your action is focused on like really like pointing out this discrepancy and like really just being there to give a counter voice, or
I think I don't. Can I? Sorry.
Hey, you can
Like, yeah, it's like, first of all, yeah, pointing out at discrepancies, but there were other groups before us that were doing this really well. Like Arca, the previously UFA rebellion group, is like, has a lot of information about how the university contradicts itself. They're like super I mean, they give really a lot of information. But yeah, we came in and we were also like, we also want to sometimes by doing stuff like, we also did free food distribution before. There were a bunch of squatting actions. It's like, you don't wait for higher hierarchies, places to do stuff for you. You do it yourself.
Yeah,
And you also point out the discrepancies.
yeah, and pointing out that making the university a political space again, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's really terrifying. It's scary. I agree with you. How
Mm.
it's sort of hiding behind its white walls and neutrality. Yeah,
Yeah, and I also think like there is still this diversity in tactics that I do get that some people still talk to the university because
Yeah.
you also need to politicize people that are not yet like this critical of the institutions. And then I'm happy, really happy that for me S was there to point out like, hey, but you can do more than talking. You can also like protest in other ways,
Yeah.
and still like stay at your, don't give in on your core values.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been also talking about this, to how to kind of engage and mobilize also the people who are not immediately attracted
Mm.
to the manifesto, to the cause, to the core values, to who are maybe hesitant and still are unsure about certain things that to them seems like a kind of this unbridgeable gap. I don't know, because I feel like
Did you
um,
did you talk to these people? Like what
I
do they
think
not relate to in your manifesto?
I mean it's I think it's more of a there is not really communication yet. Or maybe these people come to the General Assembly, but then they are unsure how to kind of step into the cause further or deeper. Or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's also a bit this thing of like the thing what unites us as a cause together is the space we live in.
Mm.
And we didn't pick that. Like we have a lot of houses, for example, where only 4 people live. Like this is a very segmented thing. And so we don't necessarily have the same interests, even though we have the same problem. A lot of people also just choose to move out and, don't deal with this and aren't so politically conscious that they
Yeah.
want to deal with it in such a way.
Yeah, in that sense, I'm also trusting. To be honest, I think that the position that I want to take towards this is that I'm trusting that people do what they can, and that they're standing in their own power in the way that they can do it. The only thing that I'm perhaps looking to more is that what are the spaces of conversations, where are the bridges that we need to build. And I think it's also what you say, Chris, is that there's a lot of different people living there, and I also think that that's the beauty of it. So perhaps a bit differently is that I'm not so worried actually about the. I think we get a lot of support. Yeah.
I'm not worried either. It's good. No,
So
I was
good.
more actually thinking in a positive way, because sometimes I feel like, and I also speak from experience when I wanted to join other groups, and it can feel scary because there's such, even after like a couple of months, there can be such immense amount of knowledge and research behind it, and then you come to an assembly and it's just all these names and places and like specific words that you don't understand, and then you just get kind of scared and back off. And then you can come to 10 more assemblies and sort of get the courage to speak up on the 11th, but maybe, I don't know, you have also certain ways to kind of ease those people into the movement, or engage them, or mobilize, or maybe or certain events that are like less intimidating to attend in a way.
Yeah, I also really remember my first assemblies. That is so like confusing and intimidating actually, and like people standing up and having like this very well formulated opinion on something, and I'm like, do these words even mean? And then everybody going on about it, and I'm like, yeah, being a bit lost. And then for me, what worked is to actually just do something, like being able to help out with something small, because I knew like I wanted to help out, but I did not know how. So I was just like, hey, I can help, but I don't have any skills, because I like and then you grab up some, like you go with the buck feet somewhere to pick up some stuff. and start out helping. Like for me, it was nice to be able to help out in this way, but yeah, maybe so empowering people to see what they do feel comfortable doing, like they to make it a comfortable space to already appreciate those very mundane things that are also very much needed, like yeah, so that. And also, for example, we just had a screening, which is already a more like way less formal setting, and then you can also discuss, meet each other.
Yeah, I think also like really taking time to like talk to new people. And I mean, not that I'm necessarily doing it myself, but like it's just really nice and like just have some connection. But I have to say, like, from an internal point of view, I think we're like trying our best. Like, yeah, just like explaining words that are complete like weird or like with letters, this kind of stuff. But I like what everything Fiona said. But from an external point of view, I think we have like zero outreach outside of like leftist groups at university, basically. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
people know us because we're not that good at this PR stuff. I mean,
No, I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. And also the structural stuff, like it's something we also like only recently have been consciously like working on.
Yeah, what kind of through what kind of channels do you communicate? Do you have like a newsletter as well, or is there just the Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram and a Signal group chat.
And Radar.
Oh yeah, and Radar.
All our
Never
events are on
forget.
radar.scott.net.
Never forget Radar. Yes.
Yeah,
And you have
basically.
flyers as well, and
Well,
stickers, or
no.
We want to start that again, but like,
It's like we're also like, because we're anti-capitalist, it feels weird to brand yourself.
yeah,
But I think we really need to. Like, it's just that way or not.
Yeah.
We have like posters for assemblies. That's what
Yeah.
we have. And but we have to go put them up again because they're
Yeah.
disappearing.
also that's like sometimes feels so contradictory. Like I started managing the Instagram account, and I've never like there were so many things that I'm like, oh yeah, I have to do a story because I've never really been into
And then
Instagram.
highlights.
And to be honest, like now I'm actually excited about it. And that's the weird thing. that I was
feel so
like,
bad.
I'm spending time on Instagram looking at like, oh, these are other cool groups, and then just like, but then that's what. Then I also feel kind of strange because there are also spaces where we could meet each other instead of that you're all the time looking at different groups or posts and finding your source from there. So yeah, this perhaps also comes back to the lacking of space within an institution for people to self-organize.
I mean, you had this idea the other time at the assembly, Fiona, that we could just go into lecture halls and tell people about stuff, or in our own lecture halls and stuff like this. I think maybe for you it's even easier in a sense that you all live on the same terrain, so you
Yeah,
could do like door
we
by
do
door and
flyers.
stuff
Yeah,
like this.
exactly.
Go talk to people because it's a very localized play, like crowds. But yeah.
yeah, but also on the other hand, like I do think there's also space for like these online
Yeah.
things, because I also really remember like during COVID I was very lonely, and then to have like a space to see, oh, there's people doing something there, and then for me that was a way that I like slowly got to know from a distance, from like a safe distance, because I was not yet having the courage to actually engage with these spaces, to already see like what they were up to and what their politics were, or like what their events were. And that way, like when I first actually met, for example, or like met squatters, I already knew kind of like what they were up to. So
Yeah, that's true. It can sort of like break the first. I don't know.
The ice.
The ice.
Is that
oh,
how
yeah,
you say
break
it?
the ice. Yeah.
but at the same
Um,
time, yeah, like it's also nice to be a bit critical about only doing things online. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and also in that sense, no wait, I'm gonna ask another question. Like, I was wondering, with what kind of groups are you connected, and are you also searching like a wider network of autonomous students in other universities? Like, is it something that you've been talking about or already? Are there connections, or do you, can you maybe tell something about other groups in the past that are autonomous, student groups that are autonomously organizing?
Yeah, what do you like exactly mean with autonomously organized?
Like, is there similar groups within that you know of at other universities, or like you mentioned Orca, like there are groups that come and go, or like do you take inspiration from like how the university perhaps was like 50 years ago? Um, yeah, a bit like that.
Do you know? I mean, in terms of groups we have been working with and we are going to try and work with in the future, it's like the people from the coalition that came after the occupation of the UFA last year. So like Orca, like also like I think ASVA and the Activisten Studentenpartij.
Asfa, I think not really, but
No.
like they are supportive of us.
Yeah, like
But yeah,
of course the Student for Justice in Palestine.
Yeah.
There was another one, the
Decolonization Club.
Yeah, and so all these groups. In the past, what do you mean? Like you like I didn't really understand the thing with the past.
Well,
Sorry.
well, if we're talking about like the university as an institution, and it hasn't always been like this, right? With white walls, there was the time that there was also the occupation of the Maagdenhuis of and perhaps perhaps that's like some reminiscence that I have myself of like the 80s where there was a bit more radical activity at the university itself. But is that, I was just wondering if what are the sources that you perhaps are looking at
Okay.
for inspiration, or like what are your guiding handles in that sense?
Fiona, you can do the Dutch part maybe better than me because I wasn't
Yeah.
there in the past.
Well, I also
For
remember
years.
Maagdhuis. I was still like in high school, so I don't know too much about it. But yeah, it has been for me. It has been an inspiration, and I think, for example, differences are that at the Maagdhuis occupations, there was like very much more a direct tie to the students' lives and the cause they were fighting for. Although, like, of course, now there's also these ties. Like, climate change is also a cause that's affecting us. But then I think it was more directly because it was about their money and their like their courses going being like underfinanced, so they really had this direct impact. uh, and also about the university selling off buildings to be hotels. So but I think it has been very inspiring, but on the other hand, like, we do see like we are in a different context, and also we do have lessons from that time. That's what a lot of criticism, for example, is that they were also being co-opted by having a sort of, I think there was some sort of vote afterwards within the university, and then nothing happened with the vote. So a lot of Maagdhuis people, I think, are still also critical of like what happened, while at the same time really liking the experiment of like what they did there.
Yeah.
But for me, I've also like learned a lot from what I really like about S is that it's also very international, or like European international.
True. Yeah, so I was gonna
And
add
that's
this part
yeah.
of like we're like I come from France, for example, and like like some stuff where like just like I see the Netherlands a bit like France, but in a few years, because it's also liberalizing in France at universities and stuff. But like there is still like very cheap like 150 meals and stuff like this at uni, and like yeah, I just so there's some inspirations from other countries that do differently. And like just recently we just had this screening actually where it was super inspiring in the Puerto Rico, Argentina, Quebec, like student movements, and it was like I really, yeah, I can only recommend to come next week because like I actually really we talked about stuff afterwards and it was super productive.
Yeah.
When next week?
Wednesday we have a screening.
At 7, right?
Apparently.
Yeah, this coming week
At
in
7.
front of at Rhode Island campus, and we meet in,
Mhm.
at the bridge in front of the ABC building.
Nice, super nice.
So I mean, it's not like for promoting, but I actually really learned something
Yeah.
last week. So
No, but like yeah, I think also like we have a lot to learn from international like other movements abroad. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about it also now. I don't know what your ties are with the Palestinian student group, but also like the quite international call of decolonizing the university. Like it's not something that started over here, but it's I think one of the moments was the 2015 roads action at the University of in South Africa.
okay, I don't know about
No,
this. Sorry.
interesting. Tell more.
Oh, okay. Well, I think like within with decolonial theory and with postcolonial theory, the notion of decolonizing the university as an institution and also like the syllabi and the program and everything itself, that slogan or like that call for decolonizing the university, one of its origin points, or like when it became actually like a widespread call, was because of the 2015 roads action, where you have the statue of Rhodes in front of the university, and there were a lot of there were academics speaking. Like a lot of things spiraled from that action. There were books being burned by the colonial like writers that were in that were still there in the university, and yeah, it was a big call for like taking down the white establishment at the South African universities. And of course, in Europe, we're speaking from a different geopolitical location, but still there's the same kind of issues that we're running into. And I think well, not issues, but the same kind of temple or like ivory tower that is there. And I was really shocked by the fact that the Palestinian student groups, or the supports Palestinian student groups, that at most universities they cannot self-organize, and that the fact that we had the teach-ins at the UvA was great, but that also the last one of last Friday or the Friday before was cancelled. So, and I'm from like Utrecht University. You I at least have like with the people that I know is that they're pushing out the hardcore decolonial conversation, which is actually not hardcore, but very theoretical and grounded in decolonial theory. But it's now being painted as radical. Just sorry, I went a bit on a ramble.
I have like a first of all clarification point. Last week, the teaching was cancelled at the UFA for technical reason, not for canceling reason.
Okay.
But there was a VU teaching. Actually, that became a teach out because the VU already didn't want them to, or like the conditions of the VU
yeah,
were
that was the
already
one that
shit.
I'm talking about.
This was cancelled indeed.
Yep.
And you want us to comment about decolonization at uni, basically?
Yeah, I think also because it's, I think especially when you're talking about building bridges, is that this, the call for decolonization is often misunderstood by people who are not in the narrative. So yeah, I think I wanted to perhaps ask you, like, how do you go about it, or have you found any friction around it? How is the response by the university when we're now seeing at this moment that the university is claiming a political neutrality that is very settler colonial and colonial?
Yeah, I think like first of all, this is also something I think as we could step up our game a bit. And
we are working on
we are working on it, honestly.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
we are
obviously
working on
published today.
yeah.
it's also like just an open conversation.
No, but
so,
it's
yeah.
no, I know, but I think it's important to have that, like I said, preemptive. And but I know also like a lot of other student groups feel within the UvA at least feel a bit like this. So we are trying to reconnect a bit more, and then trying to see what we can do together. And this thing about this decolonial narrative, I've also sometimes read interesting things about it, that like for example with ITFA it was also this critique of nowadays it's really when like only 10 years after the fact, for example, we claim the decolonial heroes as heroes, and then when it's actually there happening, we distance ourselves from it as institutions, for example the university or ITFA. So that's I think one important thing to keep in mind. So how it's cool to be decolonial from a distance or like very theoretical point of view within the university, but once you want to put it actually in practice, it's
yeah, I think for me personally, the problem that I have with it mostly is that I think it's kind of obvious that there are more powerful players within these institutions, but the fact that this conversation is not transparent at all.
Yeah, I think it's also what I always try to define this, I guess, for myself, or when I talk to other people about this discrepancy I feel between the theory that is being taught in the post-colonial literature theory class, whatever, and then what I experience and what especially like students of color experience at the university, is that there's a complete detachment from humanity and like lived experience. So everything is theoretical, and you can talk about lives and experiences as like numbers and data and this happened and that happened and oh there's this theory, but then what about the actual experience of the people who could actually come and tell you their stories, and you could listen and you could build something together instead of top-down hierarchical teaching. Yeah,
totally agree with
yeah.
I also want to add a point about friction that you were mentioning earlier, is that like for example we have very much internal contradictions I think we are a super white group, and it's really something where like we've been talking about it. We really need to like get our shit together, because that really sucks, that like it means like the ways we're like operating, how we communicate, like I don't know, a lot of things make it like not a way that we organize. So like then also as the like with this thing of like we're this anarchist group, but in the end we're like mostly this white group of students that are like in the end privileged because we're already students and stuff. We can do like solidarity with other groups, that's already something I guess, but like I think that's really like for now at least in as not central enough, I guess.
I agree.
Yeah, but I mean, white anarchism is a wider spread problem, right? It's most of the squad scene or like big chunks of it. But I think that at the same time,
the people that we see in the squad scene, because
that's true.
People, they're just not being seen and like listened to in media. I think.
Yeah. I think we also don't have that much time left. Yeah, we're already in our life. It's
pretty long.
it's pretty long. Like we started a bit late. Like before our episodes have been like 50 minutes. Yeah. But I think perhaps now where the conversation opened up a bit about like a more like deeper structural institutional problems and more complex issues as well. But I think what definitely something is to learn from the from the protest pro-Palestine against the genocide is that this kind of lame excuse that as white people you cannot self-organize because you're not involved in it. That's like something that's absolutely debunked. So I think that's a great starting point for any activist conversation, that yes, there's indeed a problem if it's if it's yeah, if it's mostly white people, but like the people just need to fucking speak up. Like I think
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, like, wanted to mention about the Palestine protest that I've heard recently, that at AUC they've gone like you know more about this.
I used to go to
Ah.
yeah.
That they have like sit-ins going on more regularly, like with a lot of people participating, and that this kind of puts pressure on both the UvA and the VU. So maybe also like interested in learning more about that myself, and then hopefully we can, because that's, I think is really like you were right about like that we need to actively stand up and not this like not being passive about it. But I also really think we need to connect more with each other about these circles and see how we can be in solidarity with each other, like how we can amplify each other's actions
Yeah.
a bit more.
Yeah, I have a question still, and it's I guess related to both our movements, and I guess this issue of history is like, because there's a real class fluidity, I think, about both our projects. Like we're all students for a time, and we have a few years in this social category and a few years to organize. And it's the same with us. Like we're in temporary housing. We're only there for so long, and so how to organize people when everyone knows they will leave at some point.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm wondering how you deal with this, because
I
it's
myself am not a student anymore, but I'm still part of us.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good example, I suppose.
Yeah, or a bad example of how I don't know.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it's for me, I realized also maybe a bit too late that it's really important then to from the beginning be aware of this, and then already be willing to like of teach the stuff you know as soon as you know it to others. And have this like very open learning environment, maybe.
Yeah, I think something that makes sense, like that goes into what you're feeds into what you're saying is like, for example, since As exists, there are 3 zines that were published, like one squatting guides, so definitely like skill sharing, and another how to live for free. The same is like tips and tricks about how to spend a bit less money. And then like now just got published and that's at the book fair, it's like how to make life a little bit easier. But this is really nice because it's like a zine combining like when you have a problem and which people / organization you can like refer to. And this is really something like a way of, this is really the problem with all our struggles, is that they disappear and they don't really are centralized in a place. And so like we hear about them, like we as like, for example, people that squat, or you as like people that are artists, or I don't know, like you hear about things because you're part of these groups. But what I find a real pity is that they're not like centralized like as information and distributed widely to people that are not like us. So I guess this is a bit like, yeah, just writing down what's been happening basically and sharing your skills.
Yeah,
Bit of branding on your side still.
yeah.
I never miss an opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's also the as a young person, student, as actually the majority of the world right now, we are in a time of crisis, of multiple crises. There's multiple genocides going on in the world. There's the housing crisis. The inflation is crazy. Politics is, we can't even mention it. And it's really that to kind of recognize that just living and existing is a form of activism, because if you are resisting all these structures, I don't know if I'm describing this the way I'm feeling, but that to recognize that to exist, for instance, also us now with the ZZW Rafelrand, that it's kind of one of the last affordable student housings in the city. And to exist there and to fight back in different ways also, and to just not kind of let an institution or the municipality or whoever tell you, okay, you're out, and then you're out, but to just question and stand your ground, and you can find your own way of activism and mobilizing, and it can be so many things.
Yes. I guess.
Okay, I think it's time to wrap up our show for today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
It was
you.
super
Thank you
nice.
so
much
much.
for
This is
coming.
so nice conversation.
Yeah, I'm really glad we had you on. And we are at the Anarchist Book Fair, as we mentioned in the beginning. So S does have a stand here, and you're still here until 6 today. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So you can
You're
find them.
staying here tonight?
You can find them here at the Dokhuis the whole day if you want to talk to them about the zines or any other topic that we covered on this episode. And a couple of us from the Rafelrand are also here. If you want to talk to us, maybe you can send us an email or a message on Instagram, and one of us might still be here, so maybe we can meet up and start mobilizing and growing the movement. Yay! Is there anything that anyone wants to add?
No.
Then with that, the episode of today
It's a wrap.
is a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Bye bye.
Yay.